Like I said, they've been able to pull out wins when people didn't think it would happen. I mean, even going back to week 6 when PJ Walker was the quarterback, right? He was the QB3 at that time. People thought they were done for versus San Francisco, and they pulled out what people thought was a miracle win. By that
Mm-hmm.
time, that was seen as like a fluke. Now we see it's really not. Because even after Watson goes down after week 10 for the season, DTR comes through, redeems himself in his second career start, and plays very, very well. I nearly, for his within his standard, a nearly flawless game, barely any mistakes outside of that one interception versus the Steelers. And then when he goes down, then comes in Flacco. It's something we weren't sure who would perform, especially with him being a 38-year-old quarterback who was just on the couch a month ago. And not gonna know, he's probably the biggest story in the league. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's awesome.
4 straight wins, possibly going for 5. Do you
Yeah,
think Kevin Stefanski is going to sit pretty much all of his starters this weekend?
I would expect so. I mean, right now, unless they really feel they have to win just to be good on seeding, but I mean, it looks like right now they're locked in at the
Right.
5 seed and should be playing the champion of the AFC South, who would then be the 4 seed. So I think they would sit out the starters. That's what I would expect at least, because what more do you have to prove in going in and beating up on a broken down Bengals team that's going to be watching you from their couch during the playoffs? What more do you gain from that?
Yeah, so I have a question for you. I'm not sure if it's came out yet, but after the Browns would play the winner of the AFC South, who would they play after that? Would they
Yeah,
play the bank? Not would they play Baltimore, or would they skip Baltimore and play somebody else?
So that's a good question. Right now, Baltimore is the number 1 seed. Uh,
Right.
and we'll just play the hypothetical game right now live on the show. But if they were to win the first round versus whoever they play from the AFC South, then they will go on and play because it goes by like whoever the highest seed remaining is
Right.
goes and plays the number 1 seed. So the only way that they don't play the Ravens if they win in the wild card, the only way they don't play the Ravens is if one of the lower seeds, whether it be Buffalo or the Steelers or Colts, if they win their game, one of the lower seeds, then they go elsewhere to like I forget how it goes there, but pretty much high seed remaining goes to like the number 1 seed and then goes elsewhere for that. But so there's other ways in which they can avoid playing Baltimore.
Okay, so a lower seeded team could, because I don't know if you remember a couple years ago in 2020
Yeah,
when they beat Pittsburgh and then they had to go to Kansas City. But
yeah.
I think that they were one of the lower seeds going into the playoffs. So by in lieu of them being a higher seed, I was wondering if they could somehow avoid Baltimore to possibly that third game or the AFC title game. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself because they have to
You're
win one
excited.
game, but
This
yeah,
doesn't come
but
around much. This doesn't come around much. I get it. Trust me.
yeah, so I'm just thinking, okay, so what would be the easiest way for us to be able to avoid Baltimore and then face them later with more things on the line? So I was hoping possibly we could get away from doing that. But like if you were saying one of the lower seeds, would have to go there, I will take that action all day. But I mean, these are things that we are starting to talk about now. Because who knew what the Browns are going to do coming into this season? And if you look at it, there's a lot of games that we could have lost. There's a
Yeah.
lot of games that we could have won, but there's a lot of games that we could have lost because, the Browns didn't get blown out really until they played, Baltimore the first time. And we all know about what happened with DTR and everything and whatnot with that. But, there are so many games that could have went either or, winning by less than 10 points. So, the Browns are in a precarious position here. But, pretty much they beat every team that they would be facing in the playoffs. They didn't play Kansas City this year. AFC, what AFC West? Yeah, they struggled out there. But I think that this city should be excited, and as long as we can, avoid Baltimore. But we went into Baltimore and won. We came from behind, in a game that we probably should have lost. But Deshaun Watson put up a Pro Bowl performance, 14 straight completions, and his receivers actually caught the ball instead of dropping the ball at critical times, which they've done before. So, his receivers were able to connect with him. And it was just, like I said, an all pro performance. We were able to come from behind in Baltimore in hostile territory. But right now, Baltimore is scary good, I read, man. They just put a whooping, on they put a whooping on both San Fran and on Miami, two teams that we thought might be able to stop them, but I mean, the road to the Super Bowl is going through Baltimore, sad to say. But Baltimore could lose, I mean, but the way they're cooking right now, I don't foresee them losing any games soon.
You know what? It's anybody's game. The AFC this year has been quite chaotic, especially when it comes to the injury bug. You think about the number of teams going to the playoffs that whose starting quarterback has either hobbled at some point during the season or they are out. The Ravens, Dolphins have the benefit of still having their same and the Chiefs still have the benefit of having their same QB1 from the beginning of the season. The Browns are on their fourth quarterback of the season, and who knows how it'll look like for other teams in the conference going to the playoffs, let alone the league. However, when it comes to the Ravens, and I said this a while back recently, I felt the only team in this conference right now that could beat the Ravens. There's only one team on that list, and I believe that is the Browns. And I give that to the benefit of being able to play that team twice because they're in the same division. So if you don't do well the first time, as they did in Week 4 when Lamar torched them and they won 28-3, you get that second time to learn from your mistakes and go out there and play better, which they did. Which you can still say it was the most important game of the season. Not because of the Ravens being this total juggernaut right now of the league, but because the Browns, it was a pivotal time for them. You're waiting on Washington to come back and really show he's worth that contract, which he did in the second half. You're waiting to see the defense redeem itself and be resilient, which they did in the second half. You saw everybody was bought in emotionally, and that's why we saw so much emotion from everyone. And even after the game on IG Live, they really felt and believed that they were contenders, and they've kept that same feeling ever since. It's hard to beat a team who, regardless if they're playing their starters or guys that he brought up off the bench or off the couch or from practice squad, they haven't played a snap all season. And when everyone has that body camaraderie and they're confident and believe that they're contenders, they believe they can beat anybody. And that's why the last team that beat the Ravens right now in the season was the Browns. So I believe the Browns are the one team on that list that believe they can go into Baltimore again and beat them again. That's the only team on the list. But like I said, it's anybody's game. If you ask me, I prefer them being in the AFC Championship compared to the divisional. It'll definitely add
Hmm.
to the lovely drama of the script. But yeah, the
Hmm.
Ravens right now are looking great though. They beat up on everybody. I'm loving the fact that Lamar's shutting everybody up and on his way to his second MVP award. You can't say he beat up on bad teams. You can't say he, avoided anybody. They beat all the good teams. All teams said that they were better than the Ravens, and he beat everybody who they said was an MVP candidate by a landslide. So it's going to be interesting come playoff time to watch these two teams perform.
It's like it's personal with Lamar this season or something like that.
It has to
and
be.
and then with the talk about other players possibly being MVP, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to show y'all right now who the real MVP is. And I've always I never root for Lamar outside of just him personally, because I don't like the way that they treated him prior to the draft, wanting him to switch positions, saying he couldn't play quarterback, usual the racist tropes. So I've always rooted for him to exceed those expectations that came, out from him, but never against the Browns or anything like that. It's very rare that I do that. Excuse me. It's very rare that I do that. But I've always wished him nothing but success personally, but not against my Browns. I think everybody understands, what I'm saying with that. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, think about how many other MVP winners in this league were still having to battle the debate of being called a running back. What other
mhm,
MVP winner in this league,
mhm,
regardless of color, creed, religion, how many other MVP award winners have had to still battle and with that debate? When he was the clear
mhm.
cut MVP winner this season, how many more people were still saying he wasn't quarterbacky enough, or still saying he shouldn't be and it should be somebody else? He had to silence everybody all the way to the last minute. So big props to him. And yeah, he's definitely it's hard to argue against it. He's amazing to watch in person, especially.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned, all the people being called up, from practice squad, members. So you're talking about third, fourth stringers coming in and buying into everything, and this team's still winning. So that's one of the incredible things, about the story of this season. Joe Flacco, coming in, not being signed by another team in the off season. It was personal for him against the Jets because they when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, they didn't call him back. So that kind of made him mad a little bit. So he's like, I got something for y'all on Thursday Night Football. Here you go. But it's just so many storylines if they could possibly meet in the AFC championship game about, this team replaced this team, and went on to win,
Yeah.
a few Super Bowls. And, the Browns have been stuck in football purgatory ever since. So, it's a couple different storylines going into that. But you know what, Ivory, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break right quick. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
If the Browns beat Jacksonville, Browns beat Jacksonville,
Yeah.
they got to Buffalo got to play the highest schedule, the highest. Because the Browns is 10-what?
11-5.
11-5.
Yeah.
If Kansas City beat, they got to play the lower seed, right?
Yeah.
They got to play the lower seed.
Okay. So Baltimore had to play the lowest seed.
Yeah, they got to play the lower seed. The Browns beat. If Kansas City beat Buffalo and Miami win, Buffalo got to play. Kansas City got to play Miami.
Okay.
If we beat, we'll have to play Baltimore because we're the lower seed between them two. See, we're the lower seed between them two.
Yeah.
Miami and Kansas City.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Only the Bills. If the Bills beat, but we end up having to play Miami.
I'd be okay with that.
I think we'll have to play Miami.
Oh, Eddie said that you didn't win the bet. We split.
How? Go ahead. How we split.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU at 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. I have Irie Harris from Cleveland.com with us and talking Browns, and we got Sapphire back with us. Hey, Sapphire, how you doing? Ticka. Welcome back. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to both of you. Thank you for letting me jump on.
Sapphire, good to see you.
You too, Irie. Always.
So I was just peppering Irie with some questions about the Browns and the possible playoff scenarios and the storylines that come, with Joe Flacco and, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens being the Cleveland Browns and then left and, won a couple titles and, the Browns being stuck in football purgatory. So we were just talking about that. But Irie, I wanted to get your overall game reaction to the game against the Jets. This was a game that was on Thursday Night Football. We haven't had many, evening football games. So I think just two this season, the one against Pittsburgh, this one against the New York Jets. But coming in, like I said, one of the storylines was Joe Flacco probably felt some type of way because after Aaron Rodgers went down, they did not call him to come back. So he probably, wasn't feeling that. So he probably had a little extra juice, for the Jets this past weekend. So a couple different storylines there. But what was your overall thoughts about how the Browns played on Thursday night?
Yeah, this I was definitely waiting for. It was different. It was different from the second walking, into the stadium. and I say this from being there. There was just a different feeling in the air. Everybody had this sense of happiness, and it wasn't just because it was the holidays, the season of giving. It was because the team, everybody knew this one game going on prime time. The entire NFL world had their eyes set on Cleveland, and that team was playing with a purpose, knowing that they win Thursday night and they are in the playoffs. They are in for the third time since the franchises returned in '99. And as I said earlier, that doesn't come around often. So it was definitely an awesome feeling and sight to see everybody bought in and they were ready. They were locked in. That's why they went on and scored 20. They scored 34 of the 37 points in the first half. They were on fire just so quickly and so easily that they didn't have to worry about scoring points later on in the second half. They didn't have to worry about having to, at that point, they'd made the clock their best friend. It was so interesting. Their first two series, I believe, were both simultaneous within number of plays, 7, and number of yards they traveled downfield, 75. And both of them came off of miraculous deep plays, especially when it came to the Flacco, David, and Joker connection. The running game was there. Defensively, they showed up. I know you mentioned earlier just how crazy it's been to see the number of players that were signed or, nobody took him and they decided to give him a chance. We mentioned Flacco, but there was another player in a similar predicament in Ronnie Hickman Jr., someone I still don't know when undrafted out of Ohio State. The guy learned instilled 4 different defensive playbooks and talking to him during rookie training camp. I'm thinking, how did he go undrafted? And now look at him, second to last game of the season, he's making his mark for the best defensive unit in the league. He had that pick 6. It was just a great performance, great game overall. We all knew how it would end, but also showing how much Flacco is loved by his former Jets teammates. After the game, multiple players going to talk to him, even Justin Hardy, Cleveland native who went to Glenville, saying, "Hey, bring the Super Bowl back to my hometown." And Flacco said, "We will. I got you." It was just great. It was just a great feeling overall.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I that's why I'm the insider.
There you
Yeah,
go.
you said go out and win a Super Bowl for my hometown, and Joe
Yeah.
said, "All right, I got you." Okay, Joe. All right, Joe. Sapphire, I'm sorry. I've been talking to Eddie for 20 minutes now.
She been
So
happy, man. She excited, Sap.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And this is because you know what? Irie is our insider. Okay.
Okay.
Nothing but upside because he gets scoop like that. For me, through the lens I have, I'm going to try not to be emotional, y'all, because I'm emotional. I sat on my father's lap in September of 1970 at the age of 5 years old and watched the first televised Monday Night Football game between which two teams?
the
The
Browns
same
and
one.
Jets, baby.
That's right. That's right. To see this for me, for my generation, like this is not just hey, we got help and we eked our way into the playoffs. It's everything that I reset. It's everything. This team, they just have that vibe, right? Things are falling into place because they're working hard and they're not landing on, like you have said very, very eloquently, Rachel, the injuries. And it is truly who is coming behind me to fill the position. It's nice to see it. It's nice to see it as a fan. And I'm just really excited about the playoffs. I don't care who we play. We are playing very good football. So on any given day, right? We could come out the victor. And I'm just very pleased. I don't know how else to say it.
We got a comment from George. He said, just wondering from afar if the Browns will have a helmet sticker in honor of Dr. Frank Ryan, the last quarterback to lead the Browns to the NFL championship in 1964, who passed away today. Also, with the Browns locked into the 5th seed of the playoffs, who do you think will win the AFC South? 2024 is here, so happiest of New Year to all. And then Positive Philly Productions say hi, Positive Philly Productions. So that's a great question by George. I did not get that news today that Dr. Frank Ryan passed away. But yeah, who is going to come out of the AFC South with 3 teams tied? So you have the Jaguars, the Colts, the Texans all tied at 9 and 7. So I guess it definitely depends on who they play this next weekend, and see what But the crazy thing is, what if all 3 teams win? But I got to see if any of them are playing each other though too. So that could be a crazy scenario.
Yeah, it definitely could be. But if we were to go just by the team still alive, the Jaguars right now lead that division, and then it's the Colts and the Texans. If we were to rank them one by one of teams I would rather them play to least let want them to play. I probably go them playing Jaguars again, just within their style of play. I mean, the way they go about it. Trevor Lawrence is definitely a bit banged up right now, so that would kind of take the load off him a bit. He has had a tendency to holding on the ball a little bit longer compared to the other QBs in the division. Secondly, I would go the Texans because we saw them without CJ Stroud, and we saw how much of an important vessel Stroud is. So I think the sense for the defense will be without Stroud, they're nothing. And I know he came back and did work versus the Titans, I believe, with 213 the touchdown. But I would still go them secondly. The reason I would put the Colts as the last team I would want the Browns to face from the division is because that team did things within their schemes that I don't think anybody else had done within the season, at least with the multiple motions that they easily cut the Browns off of. I mean, the work that Jim Bob Cooter right now, the OC for Indianapolis is doing, I was quite a bit worried. It took Myles Garrett having to really up the level of play and really set that tone until the entire Browns defense woke up, which they did in the second half, but it was still quite the high scoring game. And the Browns still won that game even without a single passing touchdown thrown. But I digress. I think the Jags will be the team that the Browns hope they play.
Mm. Yeah, because it looks like that the whole division plays each other this weekend. So you'll definitely have two teams that win. So what happens if they have the same winning percentage? Does that not change at all? Do you go by divisional record then?
I'll let the NFL analytics people. I don't get paid enough for this. Sapphire, what you think, man?
Well, I'm gonna also agree with you, but back in the day, yeah, they did go to the division record. But I mean, that's I haven't looked at that in like forever. But I would agree with you. If I had my choosing, it would be the Jaguars. Absolutely, for all of the reasons that Irie said.
Mm. How's Trevor Lawrence health? Is he doing okay? Is he a little banged up still?
It, I would say so. I mean, I haven't seen too much of the Jags recently since they played the Browns, but you know how it goes, especially as an athlete during the season. You start off at what they, quote unquote, 100%. As second summer occurs, you get banged up a little bit or a little minor injury. Your percentage just goes down from there. So whatever Lawrence is right now, it's just going down and down because by each game, because of wear and tear on whatever injury he had prior, especially prior to playing the Browns. So I would think right now they're probably boosting him up with who knows what behind the scenes so that he can actually be eligible to get out there on the field now.
I always call it the varsity blues cocktail. You remember when he went in there to stop what was going on?
Don't take that. If you do, we're out.
So what are some of your thoughts about David and Joku? And I know we mentioned it earlier in the show, but just the connection that he has with Joe Flacco, along with Amari Cooper. How's Elijah Moore doing? He's still in the concussion protocol. He's going to be a key piece missing for us going forward in the playoffs. So hopefully he's not in the concussion protocol for long. But what do you think about the passing connections that they have with each other, considering that last year, we weren't really able to get any passing touchdowns and we've been able to do that. This year we were kind of slow to doing that, but this year we've been able to do that. What are your thoughts about, Joe Flacco coming in here and just making it look so easy?
He's a veteran. Every coach so far that he's gone up against, or the opposing coach, whether they've known him, whether they're on the roster or whether they've game playing against him, have all given him his props of saying some of the same things that he's a smart player. He's a smart quarterback, and there's no surprise to the production that he's giving right now, especially at the age of 38. So just when you watch him play, you just see him in the moment. He looks like he's done this before, and even with a little more humor, he's doing it in a stadium that you could say he owns. Like he has an 18-3 record versus the Browns, so he's used to playing that same way in that stadium, and he's been making it his home right now recently. But it was a little bit surprising at first, but when you watch him more and more, you just see that he's so locked in the moment to prove to everyone that he's still here and he still got it. And when it pertains to him and the receiving corps, Injuries is something I don't want to say it's something that the team expects because you don't want to expect injuries, but you kind of become numb to it at some point, right? With a number of people that have gone down this year, from starters to practice squad guys, whoever. And so they hope that they go without Elijah Moore for too long. I think Flacco will be able to make enough connections with Njoku, with Cedric Tillman. Hey, they might even bring up Austin Watkins Jr. off the practice squad at this point, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to have that extra tight end carry 3, right?
Exactly. Sapphire?
I mean, for me, it's so nice to see throwback football, right? Our quarterback is back under center. You're seeing more swings, more sweeps. You're seeing that's opening up the passing game for the bigs, for the tight ends. We're seeing more, halfback in there. It's maybe it's not sexy, a sexy way to play football to younger people, but this is what you're seeing right now is the result of a balanced offensive approach to the game, and it's really refreshing to see it. So it's not a surprise to me. We're seeing more tight ends being used. I think it's a beautiful thing. And my heart goes out to Elijah Moore. These concussions frighten me. I'm already on record with that with Denzel Ward, but to me, what we're seeing is no surprise. And I want to remind, and I don't know if I talked to you about this, Irie, but when I rewatch the game, they're consistently talking about the connection between Stefanski and Kubiak and Joe Flacco, and how Kubiak is actually sort of coaching Stefanski on ways to best embellish, okay, Flacco style of play. That should not be overstepped. This is what we're seeing. This is, and I'll give this to Kevin Stefanski, tap the mic. He's actually listening to a veteran coach, and he's actually listening to his 38-year-old quarterback. This is not happenstance. So those are kind of my thoughts on what the offense is doing right now.
And then I read really quickly. Well, not really quickly, but what are your thoughts about Miles Garrett? He had a sack this game, so is he getting healthier? And we're getting old Miles back, or where do you think that stands?
I think that not even so much old Miles. I think Miles has been the same Miles that we've seen play the last few years, but he's definitely upped it up, and the other ways in which he impacts the game has been noted more, not only because of who coaches him, but because this is the best unit now in the league. Yeah, a lot more people pay attention to you when you're amongst the best, or at least towards the top of it. And that's why he's getting as much props as he is, and it's a favorite right now for winning Defensive Player of the Year. He's been great all season, and he really deserves all of his props and credits that has been given to him. It was nice to see him get that sack, even if he doesn't lead the league in sacks this year, which usually is a nod to, or a requirement to winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. Even if he were not to do it, I think people will look at how else he influences the game within pressure, the multiple double teams per game that he creates, and just the multiple turnovers that he's forced as well this year. Miles is looking good with extra rest. With me assuming that they set the starters out in Cincinnati, he should be even better ahead of the playoffs. Like everybody's pumped. I mean, this team believes they're contenders. Not to go too long-winded, but after that game versus the Ravens, that was the icing on the cake. They believed they were good to go after that. Watson went down. I said it. Stefanski had that look on his face like, it's terrible, but we got a game this week. And that's been the same thing every single week. We got a game this week, next man up. They believe they can go in and win with the custodians if need be.
Well, I mean, I probably run like a 6-something 40 or maybe a 10-something 40 at this time, in my life. But, we were ready here at Her and the Huddle to suit up and be available however Kevin Stefanski needed us. We were definitely ready to do that. Do you think he's still in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, or probably has that, gone by the wayside with him being injured and not having any sacks or anything like that?
Yeah, there was that small slump right there, which is kind of hard not to ignore because, like I said, it's usually something that's been required, within the past Defensive Player of the Year award winners. T.J. Watt, leading the league in such couple of seasons back. Nick Bosa doing the same thing. Garrett finishing quite close at the moment. Garrett still 6 right now with 14 sacks, in the game. T.J. Watt tied with Drake Hendrickson for 17 right now. He's not leading the league in sacks, but he's quite close to doing so. However, I still say he is in good contention because the difference between him and the guys ahead of him is that he is the best player on the best defensive unit in the league. So he gets that little benefit of the doubt of saying there's multiple other sacks he could have gotten, but because of his influence in the game, it creates opportunities for his other teammates. So I really think it's more so that when it comes down to his, you know, chances within getting the award. But I look forward to it, and I'm definitely curious to see how everybody approaches it because it's hard to argue against him being a candidate, a strong candidate at that.
Absolutely.
What do you have to do to be able to vote on that, Irie? Are you a voter on that?
I wish. Shoot, you're trying to get me in?
Yeah, man. Absolutely, I am. You need to be in. You need to be a Hall of Fame voter too.
That's it, James. I appreciate that very much. I still got my ways to go. Thanks to you guys helping me, get there. So maybe if you talk to a couple of people, etc., we can work something there.
Yeah, I know some people, so I'm gonna holler at them and see what they might be able to work up next time I see them. So I really want to thank you so much for coming on with me today. Appreciate your insight as always. And looking forward to having you on during playoffs, and hopefully that's going to be a long time. So, hopefully that's going to be until February. So we will definitely see. But thank you so much for coming on today. We definitely appreciate you. Happy New Year. And we are going to go ahead and head to break. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
You're awesome, Irie.
You're awesome too, Seth. All right, thank you. I missed you guys. It's good to see you all.
All right.
See you guys.
All right, darling.
Next generation of guardians to protect and serve the citizens of our great city. We have huge incentives to join our team. We're offering up to $5,000 signing bonus. Academy pay is now $24.95 per hour, and tuition reimbursement for
I love the hair, Rachel.
Training Academy. What's more, enter our academy with a college degree or military experience and receive a higher rate of pay. Applications are being accepted today at clevelandohio.gov/jobs or call 216-623-5233. Apply today, make a difference, and join our team.
This message was brought to you by Cleveland Safety Department and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, Burtonville Car, Radio. Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. And we always want to remind you to keep it locked here on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. Don't forget, you can listen to us online at WOVU.org. You can also download the WOVU app and take us with you on the go. And then also you can contact the station with any questions, comments, or concerns at 216-271-0959. I am here with Sapphire. We were just talking some Cleveland Browns. We just had Irie Harris with us, giving us some great insight and some great opinion related to the Cleveland Browns and Sapphire. That was a night game. And what were some of your thoughts overall? Because we're going to talk about a little bit Browns with you. Then we're going to go to some Cavs, and we're going to go to some NCAA football. And the championship matchup is set. So maybe we should do NCAA right after NFL. But thoughts overall regarding the game?
I mean, overall, this town was just a buzz all of last week. I mean, it still is. I have not seen the type of camaraderie between fans, different backgrounds and hues, like I saw this last week in years. And the thing that stood out to me, there's a couple of things from a fan perspective. How deep into the game people stayed inside of the stadium in their seats, just taking it in, right? There was nothing but love inside and outside of that stadium. So that was my biggest observation off of the gridiron. But I did, and I should have asked Irie about this. The one thing I noticed during the game was the chest bump that Watson and Flacco shared. And it looked like a pretty significant chest bump. And I'm thinking, okay, Deshaun's shoulder is still rehab, he's still rehabbing the shoulder. So I was like, but he was smiling. So
Mm.
those are like my two biggest takeaways from the game. And I'm just really excited about our next step.
I don't know. I was, a former athlete, and I really only played for two different teams in my life. I just wonder, what the feeling is like when you play for multiple teams, like how much do you really get into, it with your team and your teammates, because I played for the same high school the whole time. And then, I played club lacrosse for Ohio State. So it's like I almost couldn't imagine, going to, playing at different places, and I'm matriculated to the next, different level and stuff. But, like how happy are you with your new team in that moment and stuff? I guess they are, for me, I don't know. I guess I look at it, kind of too, when you go to college and then you go to a different school, you get into that school. But I was like, I don't know if I could ever get into another team as much as I could Ohio State. When I got my master's program, when I did my master's program, it was at Cleveland State. So we didn't have a football team, so that was definitely, very different and stuff like that. I didn't really follow the basketball team or anything like that. So I just always be wondering, like, what is it like for them to be on another team, and, how authentic those reactions are and stuff like that compared
I
to
think
where
that's
they were before.
I think that's a great question, especially on the pro level. For me, I would think that Flacco being 38 and having the opportunity to not just come back to the league, but be a starter in it, he must be truly relishing in the moment and able to appreciate it from that perspective, right? Like, think about your time in playing sports, and if you were out of it for whatever reason, for whatever period of time, and then have the opportunity to come back in one of the leading roles as well. That stadium was packed one Thursday night. He had his family there, right? There was nothing but love on an international level. I can't imagine what that would have felt like.
Because you know who he want to face again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't like that.
Why don't
I
you
don't
like
like
it?
that at all.
Why not?
But he wants to face Baltimore again, and right now Baltimore's clicking on all cylinders. I know we went into Baltimore and beat them in Baltimore in an amazing game, and I watched the highlights of that last night. But Baltimore is scary good right now. I mean, they just put a whooping, on Miami. They kind of put a whooping on San Francisco. These are supposed to be some of the best teams in the league, and it just wasn't even close. So, Baltimore is scary good, but this is a team that you face twice a year, every year. So, and, obviously that playbook is going to be different than when Joe Flacco led it. But, it's just going to be something. I think that game, if they, face them in AFC championship game, I think it'd be something. Me and Ari had talked about this before you got on. We definitely don't want, and also Rockville as well. We definitely don't want it to be a divisional matchup. We'd rather see them in AFC championship game.
Like, I hear you and I feel you, but I'm going to say this again, and I hope everybody out there listening can just give me a little space. Playing an AFC North team is like stepping up into the octagon. We're not AFC East or South. We're not NFC West. Let me tell you something. Remember McCaffrey in that San Francisco game? He was out very quickly. He took one hit and was limping around like a 70-year-old man, okay?
And
Miami,
not come back.
I'm just saying, don't be faint of heart when you come up against an AFC North team. And with our defense going to Baltimore, yeah, we won that game, but we really didn't have an offensive flow like we do now, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to be scared about it. I think that would be an ultimate coming out for this team right now when we get to Baltimore. That's all I got.
Yeah, Debo was out too. So, yeah, They
Yes,
kind of went
yes.
limping off that game, and then they lost
So,
3
yeah.
straight, and then won every one except for Baltimore. So, Ricky
Like,
Smith, hey Ricky, he says, "Happy New Year to you, Rachel and Sapphire. May the
hi,
best teams in
Ricky.
the AFC North continue their playoff runs. The Browns could go very deep." We
There you go.
appreciate you, Ricky. Happy New Year to you as well. So,
Happy New Year, Ricky.
yeah, I definitely, believe in what Ricky is saying. Like I said, I just didn't want them to face each other so soon. So that's the only thing. I think it'd be a great AFC title matchup, and there'd be so many storylines that would be there. I discussed this with Irie as well. And Ricky says, "I mean that for every team except for the Ravens. We are right there with you. We right there with you, Ricky." But one of the things too to be said was, along with those storylines, Baltimore, going to Baltimore, becoming, the Browns going to Baltimore, becoming the Ravens, and the Ravens being able to get, Super Bowls, and the Browns, are a terrible team for almost 30 years. So, a couple different storylines, with that. And then if the Browns are able to beat Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl, that would just be bananas or whatever. And then, Joe Flacco probably is definitely getting a Hall of Fame slot off of that. So,
Yeah.
that would solidify his legend. And, this is a quarterback that used to beat us all the time handily. So, that's why I was like, how authentic are these reactions? Because he used to kick our butts. Now he's a quarterback for us. So,
Listen, back in the day, I would always crave that 6'4" plus prototypical quarterback that could drop back and like rocket launch. And we have him now. We have him, and we're putting a system around him. Like I always use that word embellish, that embellishes his style of play. It's not that complicated.
yeah, 6'6". So you
Yeah.
got a little bit taller than 6'3". So, he can
Yeah.
see over the field, passes, two critical passes. That one that was a pick six the other day. I don't really know what happened with that with him. But he's gonna make some mistakes along the way. He's kind of turnover prone, but fortunately these turnovers have not killed us so much. So, if they're able to, get the turnovers down, they definitely could play some damage, and this defense continues to step up. Everybody buys in, and, there's a lot of mantras that, a lot of cliches that Kevin Stefanski is using, but they're actually turning, this team is believing in it one game at a time, the next man up. These are things that you hear all the time, but the Browns are actually turning these cliches into reality for their team. So that's
Absolutely.
something that's good.
And
So,
don't forget that 230, 6'6", 230. Listen, it takes a lot to affect him, right? And with the protection he has, be confident, Browns fans. Be confident. This is the real deal.
yeah, I believe so too. Well, Sapphire, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some NCAA football, and then we're going to talk a little bit of Cavs. So you are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
They understand they have an important role in helping people, small business, neighborhood organizations, and others in the community meet their financial needs. It begins with making the dream of home ownership a reality. Some see a home of their own as out of reach, but Key Bank is committed to reducing the barriers historically faced by underserved communities by offering responsible lending products and services, educational support, and direct community investment. Key Bank believes in the strength of diversity and that thriving communities are built one open door at a time. Mortgage and home lending products offered by KeyBank are not FDIC insured or guaranteed. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 399797. This message is brought to you by KeyBank and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, Burtonville Park Community Radio.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the
All right, welcome back to Her and Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Sapphire, and we have 11 minutes left, so we're going to go ahead and get into that NCAA action. So Sapphire was not able to actually see the games yesterday, but I was able to catch the highlights. And, I really thought that Michigan was going to go down to Alabama. And that just didn't happen. And I really wish I'd been able to watch the game because, I always want these games to be close. I want to see a good game instead of blowouts. And, unfortunately, Michigan is going to play for a national title game. And, with that being said, how does that make you feel about OSU's loss to them and the state of the program? Because OSU got their butts whooped against Missouri 14-3. So it's something I really don't want to talk about. It hurts my heart right now that we lost to Missouri. Yes, they are an SEC team now, but still, you weren't supposed to lose this game. Devin Brown got injured in one of the first plays of the game. Defense did a good job. Offense looked uninspired. Nobody's able to connect with anything. Lincoln Kleinholz came in, and him being a freshman, it was just awful. So I don't really want to get into that. But with Michigan going on to play for a national title game, where are you at with that, with your thoughts about Ryan Day and the Buckeyes program?
Okay, well, I'm not certain why anyone would expect different. Ryan Day, I don't know. Maybe it's like back in the day we used to play pinball. When you scored enough points, you got extended play. That's kind of the way I look at Ryan Day. Of course, they played uninspired. The season was a catastrophe. It was a catastrophe. Like, we found a way to keep our nose above the tread line. Okay. We saw it for what it was. We should not have been surprised that we lost the game, and we shouldn't be surprised the way they played. I mean, I'm just glad it's over. I'm out of my misery. I couldn't even watch that game. I was so ticked off. Seriously, we're not playing New Year's Day. Like, I can't, that's just the kind of OSU fan I am. So on the flip side, though, I know you're not going to like what I have to say about the championship game. So those are my comments.
Let me just exit the show and you talk to the audience instead. I don't know if I want to hear this. I don't know if I want to hear it. You can do this for the next 9 minutes. I know you can.
Okay, girl.
Okay, I'm back.
It's hard, ain't it? It's hard. You just Ryan Day, girl. Ryan Day.
Hard out here for a pimp, man. Let me tell you.
Listen, he better make this up to you next season. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want him back next season. I put on Facebook, you ain't on Facebook, he's going to be gone at the end of 2024. Especially with another loss to Michigan, he's so getting fired.
Okay.
Now, new athletic director too, and that he didn't, bring him in, that's not his guy. How we talk about the Browns and stuff like that, that regime didn't bring him in. So,
yeah.
I think, a fourth straight loss to Michigan, even though they're saying Michigan should have a down year next year because they're graduating a lot of people and all that other stuff. But, the Michigan team they don't want to lose to Ohio State as well. They want to, continue to beat them. So go ahead. Sorry. I know you said you had something to say, but
I would agree with that.
You from saying it.
No, I would agree with that. But it's like the pipeline, and you're absolutely right. But it's like sometimes I think just in general, teams hold on for whatever unknown reason. We know that Ryan Day was going to still be around after that Michigan game because he was still around. And it's hard. It's hard. That is the one game that this fan expects them to win. So we'll see. I hope you're recording it because you called it at the end of the 2024 season. He won't be around. We'll see about that.
Oh, it's etched in stone on Facebook too. So
okay,
but memories come up. Every year, whatever happened on that date. That year going back to when you first got on Facebook, it comes up in your memory, so you can kind of see where you're at. You can see how you've grown as a person, or what you were doing that day. So it'll come up on January 1st of Or did I? Oh no, it came up on the 28th because that was the day of the game. So you know how they say rage tweeting. I was rage Facebooking.
Oh
So
my, oh my.
yeah,
I haven't
but
heard it either. But so I'm going to be able to ask you on the 28th of December of this year or November of this year,
no,
Rachel,
this. Oh, okay.
I'm going to be able to say, Rachel, how much do you feel you've grown this last year? That's what you're telling me. I'm going to be able to ask you that question, right?
Yeah, and the hopefully the answer is exponentially. But
Well,
I don't grow when it's this Ohio State stuff because even if we don't win a national championship, you have to beat Michigan. That is your national championship every year. And for us to be, you know, us to lose 3 years in a row, that's
yeah.
not the program.
That's not the
That's not
program.
us. And that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I was there during the John Cooper years, and I feel
Oof.
like we're being taken back.
Yep.
We
The,
won one time in 4 years when I was a student at Ohio State because I got done in 4 years and one semester.
yeah, it's the slow
Not one
roll
semester,
back
but
to the
one quarter.
past. Slow roll. Yeah. You're being lulled back into that sort of mindset where it's okay to not defeat Michigan. That's the problem right there. But I have to tell you this, Rachel. Let me clear my throat. The next, there you go. The next time we play Michigan, they're going to be the CFP champions, Michigan. I'm just saying, I can't see Washington beating them. What do you think?
I think they can. They haven't seen a good quarterback like Michael Penix. I mean, they had to face Kyle McCord.
Mhm.
Michael Penix, this is his 6th year in, the NCAA. And I remember when he played with Indiana, I was like, who was that guy? He
Okay.
was so good. And of course, Ohio State beat Indiana, but you could tell that this quarterback had talent. And I kind of had forgotten about him for a couple years. And then
Okay.
I Googled him one day and saw that he played for Washington because I was like, whatever happened to him? I didn't hear
Mhm.
anything about him. And I'm like, this dude has NFL talent. And that's how I found out he was going to Washington. So, I think that, they might have a little bit of trouble dealing with him. I guess Washington's pass defense isn't that good. So JJ McCarthy might be able to have a good day, but one of the things, and looking back down memory lane, JJ McCarthy might have left anyway because he would have had to sit behind CJ Stroud, but he probably would have stayed an extra 2 years. And you might have been here when I mentioned it before, but JJ McCarthy wanted to come and play for Ohio State. And then
Yeah,
he beat
yeah.
him for 3 years in a row. So, I just kind of wonder how fortunes might have changed if that had happened.
Well, I think that you make a great point about Mr. McCarthy, but we also need to remember Mr. Blake Corum. Okay. We need to remember Caleb Mullings as well. Like, listen, Michigan has a very solid run game, you know, and I just feel like, especially we're talking Big Ten, they are literally, I wouldn't be surprised to see at least a 10-point difference in that game. That's how good I think Michigan is. When they beat Alabama, and I've been a fan of Alabama all year, Mr. Milroe. I mean, he just seemed to settle down and settle in. That they beat Alabama to me was a signature moment for their program. And as much as I despise the Michigan Wolverines, I think they're going to be very difficult to beat.
It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? If Michigan wins the national title, it's something that you don't want them to do. Obviously from their split in 1990, was it 96 or 97, a split at a national title game. But not only would it be national championships, but champions, but they beat you 3 years in a row. It's just unfathomable. And Ryan Day was trending on Twitter all yesterday where a lot of people was blaming this on him and stuff like that. So, the public is not very happy with Ryan Day. Ohio State fans are not very happy with Ryan Day. So we're definitely going to see, I would say his future at Ohio State is in jeopardy. Also when it comes down to the recruiting of the players, whether or not they are recruiting players from Ohio. That's one of the things that Jim Tressel excelled at. So, that's something that Ryan Day really hasn't been doing. It's like getting all these recruits from out of state is great, but don't forget about the pipeline you have at home, because there's 4 states that produce the greatest amount of football players, and they are Florida, California, Texas, and Ohio. So don't forget about those Ohio kids. Anything to say before we sign off, Sapphire?
Yeah,
We got
one of
less
them
than a
is
minute.
Shane Ramey Rowland, offensive lineman senior out of Lorraine High, like 6'4", I think he's 240, under recruited. So that's all I got. Thank you for letting me jump on. Again, Happy New Year to you, sister.
All right, thank you. Happy New Year to you. And you guys, you've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Happy New Year. And we are out of here. Hey, girlie, I'm glad you was able to jump on.
Yes, girl. They signed her in, and I was like, "Let me get the step in." Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll talk later on in the week. Okay.
Okay.